Hi guys, Karie Millspaugh here, published author and public speaker. Are you always wanting to write a book and just can't find the time? Is that you? I can agree 100%. I have been putting off publishing and writing my second book for 4 years. Ridiculous, right? Well, right now we're in a global pandemic, having a global crisis with COVID-19, and all of us are ordered to stay home. Many of you, like me, are doing puzzles and baking and playing games and home renovation and gardening, all the things we thought we would never do in the springtime of 2020. But our social calendars have opened up, haven't they? So now we have the free time to write a book, and all our excuses have gone out the window. So please join me in writing your first book, second book, third book, whatever that looks like. And maybe you just don't know where to start. So I want to give you 5 simple, clear steps, just 5, to get you started so you can whip out that manuscript in no time. Okay? You're going to use this time wisely, right? And many of us don't even know when we're going to open back up again. So step 1, to get past the overwhelm of starting to write your first book, second book, or however many books you have. Where do I start? So first, think of this. Number 1, what's the relevance of doing this book? What is the purpose? What is your 5-year game plan? Why are you writing a book in the first place? These are questions I go through with my clients as I consult them privately around publishing books. A lot of the time it's simple. I want more speaking gigs. I want to look credible and visible. I want to get my name out there. I want to be seen as a thought leader or someone, an educator, whatever that looks like for you. That's an easy one, okay? That one makes sense. I get it. If you want to write a book just because you have a good story, I want you to scale back a minute here. I'm going to be super blunt. Unless you're a celebrity, nobody cares about your memoir. Okay, that is a little bit bitter to swallow. I get it. And let me explain myself. Everybody's got a story. And that's the fun part about being an author, is everyone's got a story, but we don't want to just hear the story. We want to know how we can apply it to our lives too. So you're going to have to turn that story into a guidebook or a self-help guide or some type of personal growth tools. Use your story for the motivation and inspiration, but don't leave out the education. And I'm not disregarding that you don't have a fabulous story. I'm just telling you to make sure you add in the educational piece, okay? Make it relevant. What did you learn from your experience? How can we learn from it? How can we avoid the pitfalls that you fell into? See how that works? Now it's relatable to me, not just hearing your story. Now, I helped my 80-year-old father publish his very first book with the same advice I'm giving to you right now. We sat down one Christmas and just started brainstorming ideas, topics, content. We didn't have a title in mind, which I don't want you to have just yet. So just think of the relevance. My dad just wanted to, of course, share his story, but he had so many stories and they all had a common denominator around faith. So we kind of packaged it up that way with some self-help in there as well. Okay, so long term, what do you want your book for? Is it supposed to be a screenplay? Are you trying to get on Netflix, a documentary? What are we doing here? What's the purpose? Think way out there. What's 5 years from now going to look like? Is this book even going to be relevant in 5 years? Hard to say, right? We don't have a crystal ball. But the key thing is you want to have a decent game plan. If you want more speaking gigs, I highly suggest you create a book around something you enjoy talking about, because you want them to be congruent, right? The synergy of speaking and selling books in the back of the room, or whatever that looks like, okay? So that's step 1, the relevance of the book. Think about long-term, what's your vision, all that good stuff, okay? Step 2 is, gosh, Karie, where do I even start? Okay, and I mentioned an outline with my dad at Christmas time. Now, I do it this way. This is what's worked for me. I write out an entire outline first and think of it as mini blogs or mini articles, maybe even sectioned out into certain categories. With my dad, we did 3 phases, almost like a beginning, a middle, and an after. Or you can even kind of do it in multiple sections. I have I think, 10 sections with 3 chapters in each topic. For example, I'll be talking about fear, and then I'll have 3 chapters about fear. I'll be talking about divorce, 3 chapters on divorce, and so on, and go and being an empath, what that looks like, 3 chapters, and so on. For me, it's like little bite-sized chunks that are easy to write. So if you have like a couple hours of free time, you can knock out a chapter easily because you've already got the outline, the topic ready to go, or the story that you're going to share with the content behind it. Okay. Much easier to bite that off than, oh my goodness, once upon a time and the end. There's a lot that happens between once upon a time and they lived happily ever after, right? You don't know when to start or stop. You don't even, you're like, where do I start? Like, once upon a time I was born. I mean, help me out, Karie. And that's the overwhelm. And that's the number one reason why most people, I believe, don't write a book in the first place. They don't know where to start. Where do I start? Where do I stop? So if you have sections and think of it as mini articles or mini blogs with a lot of different topics, then you can start wherever you want in those topics, right? If I'm writing a story about my divorce, I can just talk about little bullet points of my divorce. I don't have to go, well, once upon a time, I met this guy in high school. I don't have to go way back again. And you don't know where to stop either. Okay. Make it easy on yourself and just create this simple outline. And that's what my dad and I did in December. We created, of course, this was a couple years before the book published. We created an outline. We just did a brain dump, literally, of all this content he had out there. I wrote all these little mini story topics and titles, and he just picked and chose what he wanted to write about. And I just kind of placed it in phase 1, 2, or 3 of the sections of the book. And that's how I did it. You know, the layout is half of the battle. Once you've got the layout, now you can just go in and start writing as you have time. I, for one, enjoy writing in the middle of the night if I know I don't have to get up early the next day. That works for me. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel like I'm ignoring anyone. I don't feel like I'm missing emails from clients. I don't feel like I'm ignoring my daughter and she's like, Mom, what's for dinner? That kind of thing. I don't feel like I'm letting go of any possible social time with anyone or phone calls with those that matter and so on. So you pick a time that works best for you and go with that. Okay. Third little tip here that will help, or third step, is save the title for last. Now, sometimes that's what motivates people, is they want to have that title in their head and they can see the book cover and they're like, oh, that's what I'm going to write about. You can get an idea or a gist of it, but I suggest saving the title for last. And I've done this with a lot of clients and it's worked. Even with my father, he tossed a few ideas around and then it just kept kind of, no, not that one. It's too generic, too fluffy, too this, too that. It'll come to you when you least expect it, because you're going to start to see the book. Wait till towards the end, towards the end of writing it or publishing it to come up with the title. There's a point where you'll start to see the content come together and you'll get a vibe of who's going to read this, who's my audience. And the title will just jump out at you. And of course, work with a coach or a writing coach or whoever, someone like myself or a colleague of mine or someone I can refer you to that will help you narrow that down. And of course, verify that it's not already been used and all the other fun stuff that goes with that. But I suggest waiting. Don't put so much pressure on having the best title ever. Okay. Step 4, write when you're inspired. Now, anyone that's a coach, that's a browbeating type of coach that thinks you need to push, is not going to agree with me. That is not who I am. Never has been, never will be. I believe in inspired action with all things. There's something about that energy. I call it a God energy. When you've given this clarity of what you're supposed to do, the energy that comes with it, you're missing meals, you forget to go to the bathroom, you're typing like a mad person, it's just flowing through you, and the writing is beautiful. When I try to push myself to do something or push a blog out or force something out, whether even it's a video blog, it doesn't work as well. It doesn't flow. You've got to have the inspired energy, inspired action, which again goes back to why I choose to write late at night, because I don't feel like, oh, I need to look at the clock every 5 minutes, because I don't care when I go to bed. And that's when I've written all my chapters and all my books, is in the middle of the night. If that doesn't work for you and you're a morning person and the first thing in the morning is better for you to knock it out when you're clear and well rested, go for it. You will find that sweet spot in your day, schedule, week, month, whatever that looks like for you, that just to push it out. This past weekend, I wanted to get some chapters done. I felt a little heaviness come on, Karie, you could do this. You know, you should really sit down and just write. It wasn't as inspired, and I found that I wrote actually too much and had to edit a lot. So just go with the flow. When you're inspired and have that open free time to do it without any interruption, so that your thoughts and everything can just flow out of you, that's the best. That's what I found has worked best for me. And if you have an environment that doesn't work like that, where I'm a single mom with a teenage daughter that's gone here and there, or keeps to herself enough where she knows mom needs, you know, mom's writing, mom's working. I am pretty lucky in that route. If you don't have that type of environment, find a space, even if you have to go to a hotel room for a night or two. Not saying you could probably do that as easily in a pandemic situation, but lock yourself away in a bedroom or upstairs, wherever that looks like. If you've got a basement, someplace quiet after the kids have gone to bed, your hubby's good to go, whatever that looks like, and start writing, okay? You'll know your sweet spot. Don't force it, don't push it when dinner's supposed to be, you know, being made. That's just yucky energy. I don't recommend that at all. My fifth step and best advice tip is to self-publish. You can always get picked up by a publisher later if you choose. Get your book out there. Self-publishing is such a streamlined, easy process. You collect all the royalties aside from whoever's printing it. If it's Amazon, whomever, they've made it so easy to self-publish these days without all the complications that I highly suggest it. When you work with a publisher, you got to do things by their rules. They control everything, and you'll feel kind of like you're just a pawn in your own, you know, game plan. It's not a fun feeling. I highly suggest self-publish, get it out there. Don't let anything hold you back. If you want to work with a publisher in the future, that's great too. But I've just heard horror stories where people have royalty rights. Some people spend thousands of money on their cover and the graphics, and then they have no rights to it because, you know, the relationship goes sideways. Whatever that looks like, just self-publish to start and investigate your other options later. I don't want you to have any more excuses to not get that book out there, because I love to read. I've been a bookworm since I was a little girl, okay? I was that girl that checked out a book out of the library at least 2 or 3 times a week and would just get buried in her book. I was that little girl that annoyed her sister who got to sleep on the top bunk and would leave my little reading light on until 3 in the morning because I just couldn't put my book down. I love books. I love authors. I appreciate all of them. I've got bookshelves all over my house, and I want to see yours get published too. And that's why I do what I do. And that's why I work with the clients that I work with. So if you're stuck still with these 5 steps, again, I want you to just go through them really quick. Step 1, what's the relevance? What's the reason? Why are you actually writing a book in the first place? What's the content topic? Step 2, create that mini outline, get the outline started. That's half the battle. Just figure out the chapters or the topics. Even if you don't have a snazzy chapter title, at least know the content or topic. Step 3 is to save the title for last, let it go for now, just work on the content. Step 4 is to only write when inspired, that inspired energy. Step 5 is to self-publish. Step 6, I'm gonna throw that in there, is to call me, contact me or my team if you need more guidance. Now, once your book is published, of course, we market and do all the publicity side as well, which is a lot of fun. I enjoy doing that and getting my speakers seen and building that audience to sell to, because that's key as well. More videos on that, but for now, I want to see you writing. So happy writing. Feel free to comment below if you have any questions, or just if you find this video inspiring. I want to see you as a published author soon too. Big hugs, big love. Bye.